HR department. When I came in August, one of my main goals hitting the ground was to really establish a high-performing and high-functioning HR department, really look at the basics of HR, if you will, which I think are really important and needed in the city. Secondly, to standardize and centralize policies, procedures, functions, practices to try to get everybody kind of on the same page in central HR. Work hand in hand with the Director of Civil Service, Rashawn, and her department, as HR and Civil Service really belong in that partnership role. And then finally, to really promote strong, collaborative, communication and promote progression, both inside the city and then anybody we deal with externally, any external constituents. I can say in the short time I've been here that the HR staff is awesome. The team is great, including our HR leads that are out in the other departments too. So really our goal is to hit the pieces in here on the summary, but I just kind of wanted to give some additional insight into that. The next slide here is our organizational chart for January 2024. Overall, there's 33 total budgeted HR positions, of which we have currently 28 of those filled. But what I'd like to do is just give a kind of a quick overview and then go left to right just to hit some highlights. So in terms of the actual structure of the department, I've changed it fairly dramatically from what it was previously. So currently we have two main leaders below me. One being here, Mr. Morales is the AD of HR, and then also Beverly Johnson, who's a Senior Administrative Manager of Operations. Basically, I split the department into kind of an operations, general operations on one side, and then more of the forward employee-facing labor relations, employee relations, and benefits and wellness side under Mr. Morales. We currently have 5 positions in process that are currently vacant. The HR recruiter, a systems analyst, a labor relations officer, additional investigator, and then a benefits administrator. As you'll see that those are in green, in the yellowish orange color. There's recently been, just since my tenure started, 12 moves, whether they were either new hires or promotions or reclassifications, just to kind of fit into the vision of the new organizational chart. Moving from left to right, starting with the HR recruiter. This position we actually initially had filled, and then unfortunately she backed out, but we were able to get one really good recruiter in civil service. So when we're able to get additional recruiter into the HR department, they will work collaboratively with civil service on recruiting an additional systems analyst. The next column over under Mr. Mark Miller. This is really to support all the current HRIS initiatives, but one of the most important things upcoming is, of course, the new HCM, the Human Capital Management System. So we're going to need additional bandwidth there to support that, and then any ongoing, normal day-to-day things. We added additional talent administrator for training and development. Right now, he's focusing a lot on internship programs, as well as some other pipeline-type recruiting. We added an additional HR administrator under Melissa McKnight, who's our manager of talent acquisition. She's mostly helping us with personnel action processing, background checks, all the things to onboard individuals. We also moved Rita Marshall up to handle more of the, the other piece of onboarding, so related to orientations and everything else that we do for onboarding. With Mr. Morales moving to AD, recently Mark Chimo was promoted into a senior labor relations officer position, so we'll be backfilling his position. We have a leave administrator coming on as well. This is a really important position. This person is going to handle paid parental leave, FMLA, ADA, and some of the other things that currently Monique Tab Young is handling as the employment relations manager, along with all the EEO and workplace violence complaints. So this will remove that piece from her. And then one of the other big changes is splitting of the benefits and wellness areas. They do still work collaboratively together, but really they're their own subject matter expert areas. So that's really the main changes that have been made related to the organizational chart into January, from August to January. But I would say that certainly it's a work in progress, and there's some additional initiatives that we may have in the future that is potentially going to change this. I would say particularly on the labor relations and employment relations side. The next slide is a snapshot of our employee demographics. These are citywide demographics. So just some, I guess, just high-level statistics. Females to males, we're currently at roughly 32% female and 67% male. So the first two down columns. And then moving across, our main groups currently are African American and Caucasian, each at 44%. The next highest group is Hispanic or Latino at almost 7%, and then not specified at a little under 3%, and then under 1% for each of the others.
Yeah.
Oh,
A little bit. Just hard
sorry,
to hear.
hard to hear me. Is this better?
Yeah. We need new microphones. That should
Okay.
be added to the budget.
Okay. Acting. So in our actual HR department, I just provided the demographics just as a quick breakdown as well there for you. For our 28 existing staff. And then just a snapshot of our retirement eligible. It really didn't fit on any other slide, so I just decided to put it here. But we have a little over 500 that are at least 65 years old and 491 that have 30 or more years of service. So in the big scheme of things, it's not a large group of people that are retirement eligible per se, although we could have broken it down in many other fashions, depending on service time.
Councilman?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Just a real quick, fast question. The grand total at the bottom, is that the total number of employees for the entire city of Cleveland?
Through the chair, yes, that is the total number.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you for pointing that out. Our next slide here contains two charts. The first is the new hires for 2023, which we had 802. Retirees and terminations, we had 995 in 2023. Our attrition rate from 2022 to 2023 was 5.5% annually, That's citywide. Certainly that would vary greater among departments. And our turnover rate during the same period was 13.79%, which is not bad. In the public sector, the standard is around 20% turnover. So we had, 995 during that course of the year. I know that one of the things that was asked previously was the number of police officers hired in 2023, of which, as you'll see on the left, for public safety, it just says 156, but actual police officers was 53. So just as a point of reference, so attrition is when an employee leaves and the vacancy remains unfilled for a period of time, whereas turnover is the employee leaves and the employer intends to replace it in a shorter period of time. Just different numbers.
Thank you for explaining that.
It's, even I have to look it up
Yeah.
sometimes. So. Our next slide here is related to some output metrics that I know previously were of interest, that I just wanted to give some updates on. The number of applicants, as you'll see, from 2022 to 2023 increased substantially, from about 19,500 to over 33,000. It's an exceptional increase. The number of people hired in the same time period actually went down, which is not a good thing, and that's something we're working on. The number of PIDs processed, the personnel action forms, increased to just under 5,500. One of the things we're really looking forward to related to all of these output metrics is going to be the HCM, because the HCM is the Human Capital Management System, which will dramatically reduce the amount of labor that we have to use to process a lot of things, including personnel actions, moving applicants into the system to be hired, all those kind of things. The number of step 3 grievances, as you can see, went up substantially to just under 300 from 140 in 2022. And then in terms of FMLA requests, those dropped substantially. But just as a side note, for 2020 through 2022, those were the COVID years. And employees, just pursuant to our process and FMLA, were required to complete FMLA paperwork for an absence related to COVID. So. We are currently working on some initiatives, including a time to hire project, which is aimed at narrowing down, or shortening rather, the period in which it takes to hire somebody. And then also working on the whole hiring process in general, to hopefully reduce the amount of time that things are taking to be able to hire people. One of the other things we're going to be doing in 2024 related to FMLA specifically, currently we're using an internal and an external FMLA tracking system or warehouse. Sedgwick is a firm we've been using for external, and then we've been also processing internal. The external currently is with DPU, DPW, Department of Health, Public Safety, and the Port Authority. Those will also be brought into Sedgwick in 2024. The next slide reflects our paid parental leave statistics. As of the end of 2023, we had 144 cases in which people used paid parental leave. I know one thing we've talked about previously are the number of unions that have signed on to utilize paid parental leave, and we have MOUs with all the unions with the exception of 3 at this point. We do expect those to be signed as well, but in some respects that's tied in with collective bargaining, so those just haven't been signed yet.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Can you elaborate on PPL? Is it just for, just explain how it works?
Sure. Through the chairwoman to the councilman. So PPL provides up to 12 weeks of paid leave following the birth or adoption of a child. It could be the father or the mother. It could also include 2 city employees, if there happen to be both city employees. It also provides for prenatal treatment appointments as well, up to 20 hours.
So this is basically only for the proposition of, and to be used only for if you're an adopted child or if you have a live birth.
That's correct.
And that's it?
It's related directly to being a parent. That's correct.
I see. No problem. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
And I know, Chairwoman, you'll be opening it up for questions at the end as well, but on this point of paid parental leave with these statistics, I wanted to clarify, is that effective, that paid parental leave went into effect midway through this year? So are these, is that, I believe that's accurate through our Chairwoman, and then so are these statistics effective? It's really not a full year's worth of statistics. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Number 15.
Through the chairwoman, that's a very good point. Yes, so it went effective September 15th, and these statistics run through the end of December.
So anecdotally, I would say that this is going to be something that is well utilized by employees and a very popular policy and should help with employee retention, which
Yeah.
was the intention of the
Got it.
policy. So I think this is pretty eye-opening and impressive to see
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
in a 3.5-month period.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree.
What's eye-opening is more men are using it than women. Yes. You missed your mark, Councilman. Yes.
There it is.
I was only 19 years too late.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so the next slide here addresses some policy development and revisions that we have either underway or have completed already recently. And then the second column is other initiatives that are either underway or completed. Some things of note, the employee manual in its entirety is being redone. We are tackling the manual policy by policy. In some respects based on need, and then in some respects based on, it could be recruitment and retention, it could be to the employee's benefit. There's a variety of reasons, but we are trying to systematically work through all of the policies, and we'll have a comprehensive manual done once all the policies have been addressed. So that's a list on the left. I certainly would be happy to answer any questions regarding any of them if you have them. Certainly don't want to go through them one by one. And then just another note, some of the ones towards the bottom are in various stages of being worked on. Some of the ones towards the top are ones that have either been finished and rolled out or are in the process of final review.
Councilwoman. You know what? I am okay with you guys asking them as soon as it comes to your mind, because I'm like that. I hate holding
Or
questions
I
for the
forget,
end. Yeah.
so,
So this is, it's not a hearing, this is a conversation, so go ahead.
While we're on this slide, thank you, Chairwoman. While we're on this slide, I did want to ask, I don't see paid family leave on the list of policies that are underway. Unless I'm not reading correctly, I wanted to know through our Chairwoman if paid family leave is something under discussion or in process. And then my second question would be clarification on, I I'm one of many people who feel that the city's vacation policy has been long overdue for reform. I would love to hear a little bit more about that in the interest of attracting and retaining talent.
Sure, thank you. So through the chairwoman, the paid family leave, I would say, is still under discussion, but not under crafting. So we have had several discussions, but have not moved on anything further related to paid family leave.
Point on that, now that Councilman Slife is here, we can sing his praises in terms of the leadership on the council side with paid parental leave. And the question I was asking Councilman Slife was related to whether paid family leave policies under development. I believe we amended the legislation to call for a working group. So I just wanted to take this opportunity for clarification on pacing and timing for a paid family leave
Sure.
policy.
Thank you. Brooke is helping Councilman House Jones and me with a lot of the legwork on this, but there was a meeting towards the end of the year where we are attempting to really ask all of our questions out and almost figure out what data do we need to grab from the administration in order to begin to design what a policy could look like. And this is actually a great reminder for me. So Brooke, this is a reminder for you to come find me, because the goal has been to kind of, with information from the administration about the workforce, being able to then begin to bring in some of our external partners, as well as other city departments, with the goal of having some sort of recommendation, hopefully second quarter of this year, of what a policy could look like. I think what we have just learned, or the tenor of the administration at this point, is that paid family leave is just an entirely different, ball game than paid parental leave. So there's a lot more to unpack and unravel and understand. But the Reader's Digest version of all of that is, yes, there is a working group. We are moving forward. We'll be bringing in more and more partners to start to circle that drain and hopefully come towards some sort of recommendation.
I absolutely understand that it's substantially more complex than paid parental leave. And just before you arrived, Councilman, we were celebrating the statistics for paid parental leave
Did you see that?
year to date, which are 144 just since mid-September. So I think that's awesome. So great work.
Thank you.
And then my last follow-on question through the chairwoman was curious about the vacation policy progress.
So through the chairwoman, regarding vacation, that was put into effect, the new vacation policy. Some of the highlights of the new vacation policy are that after 30 days of continuous employment, a new permanent employee who's eligible for vacation time receives 2 weeks. So that's great. That's a huge change that will help with both recruiting and retention. Secondly, effective January 1st of 2024, we changed the second accrual level of vacation leave to where an employee will receive 3 weeks after 5 years of service. Previously, it was 3 weeks after 8 years of service. And that's a big change. Those hours were actually just loaded recently for employees. So it's an attempt not only to retain, but it's also an attempt to reward service sooner. And the remaining levels remain the same. So an employee after 22 years of service is at 5 weeks of vacation time. We are currently, just as a side note, I know we discussed previously, we are still in what I would call a dump system, which means that we dump a bank of time at the beginning of every year based on their service time the previous year, up to whatever their accrual is. With the new HCM, the goal would be to move to a biweekly accrual system, which is really a best practice. But as we've discussed, we can't do that yet because operationally our system can't account for that. So you were kind enough to pass the legislation when we changed the ordinance related to vacation, which will give us the ability to do that when the new HCM is in place.
Got it. Thank you. And while we're on this page as well, I have a tuition reimbursement question. So is that an initiative? Is that a policy? Why hasn't that taken place?
To the chairwoman, that's a good question. We actually are in the I would say still the research phase of a citywide tuition reimbursement program. We do by department have tuition reimbursement, including my department. But that's the way that it's been done historically. However, we are looking at the consideration of a citywide tuition reimbursement policy.
And do you anticipate that would be in this budget cycle? Because that would need an additional line item, correct, through human resources if you do it citywide?
I think if it's something that we would actually look to implement citywide, if it's something that we move forward on, it would probably be for the next budget cycle.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Just a couple of other quick notes related to this slide. One of the most recent policies we did pass was the drug and alcohol policy, which I think also is another mechanism that will be highly regarded for recruitment into the city, as it's a barrier removal, but also really aligns the policy in total, really aligns with best practice related to employment. On the right-hand side, related to the initiatives, there's several that we're going to be undertaking in. Sorry, my microphone keeps going in and out. I can kind of hear when it does it, but kind of not. That's right. That's funny. Oh yeah, that's better. That's much better. Thank you. One of the main things to stress is with our initiatives is again to really try to standardize and centralize a lot of the policies and procedures and practices that are inherent to the HR and civil service departments. See, it sounds loud to me. Okay. You usually have a booming voice. All right, I'm just going to talk straight into it.
Yeah.
All right. Then I'm not going to look at any of you. I hope you don't mind. Okay. So, as I mentioned, we're really looking to bring things kind of into a standardized and centralized format citywide, whether it's initiatives related to the skill sets of the employees that work as leads in other departments, training on employment relations, labor relations. One of the things that I know I've been asked about previously is related to management training, and we are in the process of drafting an RFP for management training. So I don't know if there's anything on the right-hand side you have any more specific questions on, but those are some of our initiatives.
Yes, Councilman. This is better.
I'm looking here. Now, we have a lot of various different programs. Thank you. Now, I'm talking about the microphone. Thank you. We have a lot of various programs in the city of Cleveland, human resources, sick leave. How do we quantify that? I mean, when we go through the budget each year, I know that in the back of the budget you have to search for these things. With all of what we offer our employees, how much we're paying for this? And I think that's often sometimes a really big part of this that's not really talked about and communicated. Can you elaborate, and if you don't have it now, in the future, can you estimate how much this costs to us to have these various programs and initiatives in place?
Through the chairwoman to the councilman, I don't have a budget dollar amount for you. What I would say is we are responsible for budgeting what an employee is eligible to accrue based upon what our policy says. So we have to take the number of employees and then look at what they're able to accrue and then budget accordingly. So that would be true of whether it's sick leave, vacation leave, anything that the employee technically could utilize or be paid out for. But I don't have a number.
Yeah, it would be, good, Madam Chairwoman, to kind of have an idea, because when we implement policies in the city of Cleveland, or we enact stuff, it has a cost factor in there, and it would be nice for us on this side of the table to be able to know what that looks like.
I think we can get you that.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Got that down, Brooke? Thank you.
Director Cole.
Councilwoman Gray?
I have a question. I may have not paid attention to the question that our chairwoman asked about on vacation policy. Could you go over that again? In respect as when someone is hired, how soon they can take vacation? Chair to the director.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, it's after 30 days of continuous employment. They're given 80 hours of vacation leave.
So how many weeks can be taken if they decide to take a vacation after 30 days? How many weeks can they take as soon as they come in, into employment?
Through the chairwoman, really it's at the discretion of their manager or director, how soon they can actually utilize the time. The policy does not have any constraints on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So my next slide here is related to healthcare and wellness. One thing I do want to note under the highlights, under line 2, I got updated numbers literally as of this morning. So where it says 14,500 total, that's actually 13,319. And where it states 5,734, it's 5,793. So that was as of literally this morning. We're actually going through this right now because of reviewing healthcare rates and the number of covered individuals. So the first number, the 13,000 number, that is the total number of bodies that we cover for healthcare. And the 5,793 are the actual city employees out of that number. So our employees constitute about 43%, and then dependents 56%, 56.5%. Just as to highlight our major medical Mutual, Anthem, and Anthem are major medical providers. Vision is provided by IMED. Our dental is provided by Delta Dental. One big note, House Bill 33 permits dependents now to be covered up to the age of 26 for dental and vision. So after a review with our healthcare consultant, it was determined that it would not be a large impact to the budget and or claims. We're currently finalizing the negotiated rates for 2024, which will take effect in April. And then one thing of highlight this year, we are instituting the non-wellness rates. So what's important to note about that is I think previously there was communication that they would be actually instituted. They will be instituted for 2024. So there's an adjustment in what an employee would pay based upon whether or not they completed the biometric screening and the health questionnaire.
Has that deadline passed, Director?
It has. The end of the year, so 12/31 was when the paperwork would have to be submitted by. for 2024.
And what is the increase if that wasn't submitted?
So pursuant to our collective bargaining agreements and all the collective bargaining agreements, the wellness rate is between 14 and 15%, and then the non-wellness rates are between 18 and 19%. So we institute that citywide. New to this year, we instituted a new, I'm sorry, not new to this year, but we have a new provider for our FSA, which is Wex Health. Symetra is now our life insurance carrier. MetLife is now our supplemental insurance carrier. So that's insurance like short-term disability, critical illness, accident, and hospitalization. And then Ease at Work is still our EAP. One other thing of note related to CleCare, Metro Health CleCare, is we're negotiating the removal of the zip code restriction. So currently, you have to have a zip code within Cuyahoga County. So we're looking to get that lifted.
Director, would you have the number of employees that are on Metro Health CleCare?
I don't think I have the breakdown with me, but I can certainly get that to you without a problem.
Go ahead, thank you.
Sure. So those are just some highlights related to the healthcare moving into 2024. Initiatives related to it. Open enrollment is going to be late February into early March. We are doing a comprehensive clinical and claims review because most of our costs for healthcare is based on claims. So of course, that's what we're going to try to tackle. We are also doing claims audits. So that's actually related to previously processed claims to make sure that they were handled correctly by the carrier. Based on the claims, our two highest claims conditions are diabetes and musculoskeletal. So we're actually going to be launching some initiatives related to tackling those specifically with City of Cleveland employees. And then we'll also have other initiatives throughout the year. We're looking to reinstitute healthcare committees, which is not only a benefit, for departments within the city, but also communication with the unions to keep them apprised of what's going on in healthcare. And then finally, looking into 2024, not for 2024, but in 2024, potentially for afterwards, is a new, possibly a high deductible healthcare plan in association with an HSA. So that's another thing that we're looking at it would be for subsequent years. And that is really the main stuff for healthcare.
Okay.
And I'm open for any questions. I also know that you had some other
Yeah.
questions.
Well, you answered a lot of our questions through your presentation. So I just have a few more, and then I'll open it up to my colleagues. So non-budgetary, I noticed resigned 638 employees. Does the city collect data on why employees are resigning?
To the chairwoman, yes, we do exit interviews. And we do try to gather the reason. It is, we don't have a central warehouse currently for that, but we do gather the data that it's actually something that we're working on for the offboarding process too.
I would love some data. Just be interested to know why people are leaving the city. You started, Director, what month? What day?
I started August 21st
August
of 2023.
21st, right. Time flies, right?
Yes.
So what would you say, what structural or organizational changes have been made in your departments if you started that you maybe are proud about?
To the chairwoman, I'm looking at it very pragmatically. Put a lot of thought into how our department can best serve the employees of the city, as well as increase recruitment and retention, get more people on board. So I would say if I was to be proud of anything, I think it's too early in the game for me to really say that. I think that the changes that have been made are good, and a lot of targeting is being done to the problem areas that have been identified.
Got it. And then along those lines with recruitment and retention, do you have a plan in place to keep, for people from not resigning?
Yeah, so related to recruitment, you know, some of the things that especially in collaboration with Director Long, you know, we've started to move forward, was the introduction of recruiters, which is already proven to be very beneficial. Recruiting events. So I know that yesterday we spoke a bit about the hiring event we have this coming Friday, but then also working in collaboration with other departments like Department of Public Safety for the police hiring event. Trying to do things like that to bring more individuals in larger groups. Really trying to rebrand how we recruit. So the postings we use, the way we communicate and get the information out, you know, really trying to have people looking at the city, you know, for potential employment, really realize what we have to offer. Of course, it's a dedicated decision to come into public service, but we do have a lot to offer, so we're really trying to communicate that better. This month, we're also starting a monthly meeting with our communications department, and it's going to be to highlight positions that will go out, spotlights, if you will, for certain positions, and then utilizing social media in a better way to actually communicate that to individuals. Also based on their generational level, right? Because you know, I have kids that are on TikTok all day, and employers are actually starting to use TikTok for recruiting. Instagram, you know, other measures of social media, depending upon your generational level. I'm still of the Facebook generation myself. Previously MySpace, so.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's a little disheartening,
Yeah.
to be honest. And then, you know, I think just general barrier removal. So I talked about the drug and alcohol policy earlier. That's an example of a barrier removal. Looking at job postings and really determining, you know, are the requirements that we currently have necessary, or are we able to adjust those to remove additional barriers? Maybe move things from required to preferred, or remove them altogether. You know, so that's another example of
And on that
some of the
point,
things.
I did notice that safe leave numbers are not on here. Parental leave, but safe leave is not on there. Is there a reason why we're not capturing these numbers?
To the chairwoman, yes. So admittedly, the safe leave policy was never implemented previously, formally. So it was communicated, and but it was never formalized. Now, with our review and implementation of a new domestic violence policy, we will actually be attaching the safe leave, bless you, safe leave will be intertwined with the domestic leave policy. I'm sorry, domestic violence policy.
Oh, I see it on here. Okay. Wow. Thank you for that. And then just like my last question, one of the things about going out and having some time for the holidays is that you get to catch up on all the documentaries on Netflix. And some of the things that I've been just kind of learning about is just the mental health, right, in a workforce. And the end of the year, I was able to do a retreat with my staff and brought someone in to do like wellness and how do you cope with stress and the breathing. And I noticed that you do have a new position for wellness. And I'm curious to know, as you talked about something maybe along the lines of RFP, what does wellness look like? You know, is that an opportunity for us to like reach out to organizations that help employees kind of learn how to cope, right? Public service is very rewarding, but it is very stressful. So, and I'm sure that people that have resigned or people that are, you know, using the FML and all that, it's a lot has to do with our mental health. So just this year would be something that I'm going to champion through this committee, as well as just, you know, the mental health of our employees. So what are your thoughts about that? And then I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
To the chair, I think it's a great idea. We have had discussions related to initiatives for mental health. I do know that in February for Black History Month, there's actually going to be a module related to mental health that's being rolled out. But in terms of the overall, I'd say initiative, yes, it's going to be something that we're looking at more closely. The wellness manager and I have already had discussions regarding some initiatives for mental health.
Got it. And I would just recommend, rather than having something like the Rotundo or something, maybe take it by department, you know, where employees could come together and learn all these coping mechanisms, and which have been very helpful for me. So that's
good.
my recommendation. And so now I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. Councilman Slide.
Thank you. This is probably, first of all, I apologize for being a few minutes late. And probably an area where I could pepper you with questions all afternoon, so I'm going to try to hold back. But as you know, the purpose of these hearings now is to kind of understand expectations as we move towards the more typical budgeting process. So to that end, you know, in the information we were given, which I believe it run in October, so it doesn't count for the entirety of 2023, but most of the areas within the HR budget were at 60% of budget, 70% of budget, and I think that's probably because there were some open positions. So I'm interested, just as we kind of set our expectations for 2024, knowing that we have many aspirations, continuing ed, tuition reimbursement, more employee benefits, all of those things. What is the budgetary outlook looking like for 2024? Are we needing to increase our headcount to really meet these kind of expectations, and to what degree? And then also, since there's a centralized HR, but then HR sort of exists in each department, I think it's useful to understand just kind of at a broad level how HR kind of intersects across the entirety of the budget, and where do we need to be putting things in the HR budget, and where do we need to be putting HR goals within the budget of other departments to meet kind of the spirit of what we discuss here. Sorry, that was a lot.
Through the chairwoman, so is related to the budget for 2024 and our positions. I think we have requisitioned at this point what we're looking to have. As I mentioned earlier, it might have been before you came. I do see some fluidity related to where we may go. Particularly in the labor and employment areas in terms of staffing. But that would be down the line just a little bit. So they're not reflected in the budget that was submitted at this point, in part because there's still some assessment of the needs. Each of the individual departments has a budget in which they also employ an HR lead. So that would be part of their budget. And in terms of the future, I guess if there was any substantial change, we would we would probably talk about that down the line. But at this point, it's as we submitted it.
Okay, and again, just kind of a follow-up on the topic, but like Councilwoman Santana had mentioned, there is a call-out within the codified ordinance for tuition reimbursement. You had explained that not every department avails itself of that. Kind of beyond tuition reimbursement, more fundamental than I think even tuition reimbursement is just kind of continuing education. Not everybody needs tuition reimbursement, but everybody can benefit from training and technology and all of these things. If let's use continuing education just as an example. If that is something that the council were to believe that we need to double down on a little bit more, would that be something that we would need to be supplementing within the HR budget, or is that something that we would need to be doing across the entirety of the budget? Like, would that be in the Public Works Department's budget, or would that be in the HR Department's budget? And how do we sort of take what is maybe a shared goal and where's the actual dollar placement?
Through the councilwoman, that's a little bit hard to answer only because of our current structure. So we do have a training and development budget related to many areas, but not necessarily something like continuing education, with the exception of individuals who work in the Human Resources Department Central, or specific to the operational department. You know, they would have their own budget under currently the tuition reimbursement. In terms of a greater program, if you will, would probably be something that I would recommend go through the HR department, so my department, centralized, where there would be an assessment, you know, of the submission to have continuing education, or I guess I'm thinking more degree-based or college-based in my mind, rather than have that at the department level.
Okay. I'll probably end it there just because I don't want to take too much time. But it's kind of a unformed idea. But I do strive, and my values include hoping to be able to pay for tuition reimbursement, continuing it, and all these things. But I also suspect that there's thousands of people in the workforce that just have their own skills, and it'd be really cool if we had kind of a program where, like, I do a TED Talk thing to teach people how to do a pivot table, because I think it's really worthwhile that people. It's not intuitive at first, but once it is, how you're able to organize information and draw conclusions is useful. So if we're able to kind of get a census of what skills are already existing in the workforce, and do like a lunchtime, chatting with Charlie instead of a TED Talk, and teach, like, how do we teach each other, might be a way to help elevate the work level up a little higher, at more of a cost neutral way. So
I like that. That's a really good idea.
that's all I got.
Thank you, Councilman, and I do agree when we talk about retaining employees, professional development, continuing education is so important. So let us know, Director, how council could assist with that budget. If it's the budget, it's a policy, whatever that is. Next up, I have Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I thought I had Jenny Spencer in front of me. The first question I have, Madam Chairwoman, and it was something that you had actually brought up, which tweaked my interest, was the issue of the resignations of so many people in the city of Cleveland, and having a better idea of why they're resigning. And this has been going on since before we were born, of course. People resigning out of the city of Cleveland, or any job, for a matter of fact. But do we have the top 2 or 3 reasons why our people resign? Do you have any kind of systems in place that gives us an idea what some of those situations are? For an example, the police department is what I'm thinking about in mind.
Through the chairwoman to the councilman, we do know and have discussed previously that historically, prior to RISE and some other changes that have been made, we were losing police officers to other police forces, particularly suburban or others in the city that paid more. I can tell you that since I've started, just anecdotally, I've seen fewer come in since we've made the changes. However, I do know that previously we were faced with the resignation to competitor departments. With the increase in the rates of pay and bonuses, I think it's really going to help us with the recruitment and retention.
Right. So, I mean, when you look at, like, and I know some cases, I ain't going to bring them here to the table to you right now because that would be inappropriate without letting you know in advance what they are. But when you have police officers, men and women, who are resigning from the police department, some of them have legitimate grievances. And some of those grievances is how they've been treated. How do your department deal with situations like that?
Through the chairwoman, I honestly, I would have to know specifics. If it's something that comes to our department, it would be in the form of a formal grievance or an EEO or workplace violence complaint. Otherwise, that would be handled internally within the Department of DPS, or Public Safety, excuse me.
The next question, and I won't get into it, but I would think that you would give me a little bit more something to bite on, right? And here's what I mean. For an example, grievances come. There's a process. So in the process of them resigning, and say they didn't give you a full lengthy, they didn't go to their union and have their union come to you and go through the whole process. They just flat out said, hey, I've had enough. I'm resigning. I'm leaving the police department. Here's why I'm leaving. So when someone comes to you and says to you, for an example, I'm leaving because of these conditions, does the Human Resource Department do any kind of, or launch any kind of investigation into the situation to see, or is just, this is the grievance, this is it, and you do nothing else?
Through the chairwoman to the councilman, the quick answer to your question is no. Under our current format, unless it's brought to us as an actual complaint falling under our purview, generally that is not something that we would address. Now, if it's something that is seen that appears to be alarming, then it's not unheard of us to communicate with the department what the individual said.
Okay. So then what happens, and this is important, Madam Chairwoman, because this is a situation here. So now you have employee out of the police department comes to you, says, I'm just resigning because of ABC. Now, ahead of that, you had the grievances on the same situation, subject matter. All right, now you're in a situation where you got employee number 5. You got 4 employees now who resigned. Didn't go through the grievance process but 1. So now that you got 5 situations in front of you that you are aware of, is there any investigations? Is there anything, or is just, again, it's a no answer because whatever? I don't know, so maybe you can tell me.
Through the chairwoman to the councilman, so if you're referring to an identified pattern of something,
Correct.
certainly if it's noticed, it could be something that we communicate with the department about. If it's something related specifically to, as I mentioned earlier, an EEO violation, workplace violence, something that we identify as a pattern through the grievance procedure. I mean, it's not uncommon for us to have conversations with other departments related to those identified patterns.
Right.
Absolutely.
And now the next question, Madam Chairwoman, to the director, has analytics got into your department yet and start working?
Through the chairwoman, you'd have to be more specific.
For an example, analytics is, we had a presentation here Monday with analytics. Elizabeth, I call her the distinguished lady. Has she ever had a chance to get in your department and kind of like start making recommendations or take an assessment on how you guys do the process and how things are working in the HR department?
Through the chairwoman to the councilman, yes. We are actually starting to work with Dr. Crow, both you know, on the intranet side, but as well as the analytical side as well for metrics.
I see. So you are working with her?
Yes.
All right. So the next question that I have, and the reason why I asked that, because I'm not going to dive into the first question about the pattern. I guess that's a good term, the pattern of grievances, or not pattern of grievances, patterns of people who have left. Maybe some of them shared with you some of the stuff, but some of it was, and we'll talk offline about it. The other issue that's in my mind, at least, is you have someone interested in a job. The city has it posted, and they do what they need to do to get into getting on with the city of Cleveland. In this one case, they made contact. They fill out everything, and they were told that they're liked, that they're being considered, and then they're considered, and then we're going to hire you. So now they're chosen. Why does it take so long for a person who's been offered the job in January to finally get the job in August? And we're talking about a dog catcher.
Through the councilwoman, wow. So I can tell you that as I mentioned earlier, time to hire is actually one of our critical initiatives that we are working on. We are not only trying to identify patterns and holdups, but actually streamline the process citywide so that it's not an individual department process, including both the development of process in writing, templates, the use of templates, the correct use of our NeoGov system, which is the system in which individuals apply and are hired through. So actually all of that is being looked at currently and streamlined. We know that we have a time to hire problem. And so that is one of the things that Director Long and I are working on currently.
Okay, so can you kind of help me understand why we got a problem?
Through the chair to the councilman, I think there's historically been, at least from what I've identified in my short period of time, there's a lot of touch points. There are a lot of decentralized processes that are currently being used or have been used. And there's also situations where there may be a position posted with unbeknownst to the Human Resources Department or Civil Service, they're actually looking to fill the position later on. So that's another area where we're trying to really marry the requisition and position filling process. Do you want to add to that?
Through the chair to Councilman Jones, there could actually be, without me knowing specifically, I mean, I can do some research and be able to tell you exactly what happened, but there could be many, many reasons for it to have taken so long. Because things are decentralized, it could have to do with the requisition, it could have to do with whether or not there were any bidders. I don't know if it's a union position or not. It would have to do with whether or not an eligibility list was required. There could be, I mean, many reasons. Now, January through August is a stretch, so without all the information, I can't answer the question, but if you want to give me the name and information, I would be happy to look into it,
Well,
let you know.
what is the turnaround time? Then if just use this one, dog catcher, what's the turnaround time? You offered the person the job, or the department offered the person the job. So it sounds like to me, when you say not centralized, it's decentralized. So you're saying to me, each department just does its thing, and is not coming straight to you guys to know about the situation?
Through the chair to councilman, that is correct. That is actually something that we're working on, a centralized process that will be rolled out to all the departments. And that will be starting presently with the requisition. We have limited the approval process from 6 or 7 approvals to just 2 so that we can turn it around.
Well, I would, Madam Chairwoman, I think that this is, and I think it's good that the administration, the Bibb administration, I presume, is a part of the reason why we're looking at centralizing the whole process. That this is crazy to me. No wonder we're so messed up. That we got everybody doing their own thing and hiring who they want to, what it sounds like. And that's been going on for quite some time. How long has that been going on? I know you've been here for a bit, so if I may ask you, because you have historical memory, or how we say it here, institutional memory.
Through the chair to council, Councilman Jones, the process has been the same for quite a number of years, so I am looking forward to the changes that we are currently implementing.
So how long has it been?
I've been here almost 30 years.
Yeah, it's sad. And it's been here since 30 years, since you got here? Madam Chairwoman, to the distinguished lady with the cougar pattern.
Through the chair to councilman, yes. It's been a little stagnant, yes.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So it's good to see it evolving. So that would that mean, Madam Chairwoman, that you would have to staff up and put more staff in play?
Through the chair to councilman, I think for both HR and civil service, our staffing levels are adequate. It's just about rolling out the process and holding the departments accountable to follow the process. The process, the way that we are putting the processes together will work. It's just a matter of rolling it out, ensuring that the departments understand it and comply with it.
Are we anywhere close to that? Because that's good.
Yes, we are.
Do we know when that will take place, Madam Chairwoman?
Through the chair to council, we actually have implemented a streamlined process for the requisitions. We are currently working on the hiring process as well as onboarding and offboarding. So we have a lot of initiatives that are running concurrently with each other. If I had to guess, we're trying to be able to at least present it within the first quarter, at the latest second quarter.
I'm having a senior's moment. What's your name again?
Rashawn,
Roshan?
yes.
What's your last name?
Long,
Long? That's right. Director Long, I'm so sorry
that's okay.
that I, for this moment, just because you're so nice and you've always been so professional.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you working and your commitment of 30 years to this city is outstanding. So hopefully you'll be here for another 30 years, God willing. Right. So it would be nice to see that put in place and then to really start getting these people hired on. We have said here, I know I have, and I know my colleague, the chairwoman, since we got in, we see all these vacant spots all the time, and they never seem to be filled. And so, and we would sit here for the last several years, 6 years, and ask, why wasn't these positions filled? Why wasn't this done? And it seems like we see part of that issue. So it would be good to see what that looks like when you start shaking it down and seeing what it's about. And I know that we support the HR department in every which way we can. Hiring in competent, capable people are important, and making sure that our city is efficient in operating. And at the end of the day, it really is about you're the gut, so to speak, of the body. And if the gut is not healthy, then the body's not healthy. And so at the end of the day, whatever we can do here to help HR is important. I just want you to know that you have a partner in Jones, in any which way you need it, because right now we're really in trouble because we don't have the right type of talent in place that can help us to deliver the services in the streets and in the communities, and to provide those services starts with making sure that we're having quality hires and we're having those vacancies filled quickly. So with that, Ms. Chairwoman, I yield to you. I appreciate you, Madam Chairwoman, and what you do for us here.
Thank you, Councilman. And I am feeling optimistic of, new leadership in place and the wealth of knowledge in this institution and this organization. So now I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I will keep, there have been some great questions today. I'll keep this brief with just one or two follow-on questions. I wanted to go back to the slide. I didn't ask my question at the time. The slide related to number of applicants this year and the number of hires. Yes. Oh, not that one. That one, yes, yeah. I was just curious through our chairwoman to know, it's fantastic that number of applicants went up. What is the explanation, if one is available, about therefore why number of hires went down? It's a wonderful thing to have this increased interest. I think my underlying question is concern about discouraged applicants and people who in earnest would want to come work for the city, but then for one reason or another didn't make it through the process or didn't get the information they needed, or what's going on here with these numbers is my question through the chairwoman.
Through the chairwoman to the councilwoman, I unfortunately don't have a lot of the historical knowledge related to the numbers. I know that there has been a concerted effort to increase awareness of our postings and then subsequently applicants that go for them. Unfortunately, I don't really have a good answer for you related to why the hires went down, even though the applicants went up. I can only hope that the changes that we're making will change those numbers dramatically for next year.
It'll be an interesting one to look at year over year. And then, Madam Chair, I simply wanted to ask Director Cole, since this is your first time going through the budget process with us, this is a new process for us too with this hearing today, but just wanted to welcome you to the process and wanted to briefly hear your why. Why were you motivated to come and serve the city of Cleveland? Why did you, a little bit about your personal story and why you wanted to take this position?
Good question.
Oh, thank you. I may blush a bit here. Through the councilwoman, my personal story really is I've primarily worked in public sector my entire life. At various levels, I had never worked at the municipal level, and have always been intrigued by the municipal level because it's the level that meets the people, in the day-to-day. It's not a delayed reaction, so to speak. I think it's an exceptional form of democracy at work, in really any department that you work in the city. And I like to say that I've dedicated, myself to public service to some extent throughout my career. I actually started as a social worker many years ago, and switched over to human resources, kind of combining, I guess, the two loves that I had, which were people and business. So it kind of was just a natural, move over to human resources. But I still, although my age may not reflect it, still feel and consider myself pretty young and have a lot of years to give. So when I saw the position open, I was really excited that I would be considered for it. My time at the city, I know I've said it in various venues, has been wonderful. The people are extraordinary here, in all the departments. It's been also a pleasure to get to meet and get to know you all on City Council better. I still have a lot of learning to do and more relationship building, but everybody has been kind and professional, and I really appreciate that. And thank you for that question.
Great to hear your response, and welcome again. Thank you, Chairwoman.
That's why I like you. I'm the social worker in you. So just to wrap it up, because I know we have another presentation, I want to be mindful of everyone's time. In terms of the budget overview, is there anything that we haven't covered, Director?
To the Chairwoman, the only other thing I guess I would highlight, and I know, and still learning the legislation process better, that will be coming in terms of highlight is the management training piece is going to be a bigger budget item this year that was not present last year.
And is that like the professional development management piece you're talking about? Like a
So this
leadership-
is to, we'll be issuing an RFP for management training citywide to try to really elevate the skills of our managers, supervisor through particularly middle management levels up through and including chiefs and directors. But there's also going to be a piece in there related to a performance, I guess, plan. So not so much the tool, but a plan to really, after looking at the skills of the managers or managerial employees, how we can appropriately assess them.
Got it. Could we align that with wellness and maybe, I mean, that budget and if we're teaching, management, maybe them, have like a wellness piece to it? Is that an opportunity that we could look at the budget and implement something along those lines?
So we're really, we've placed it more under our training development area. Now there is within the wellness area, particularly a part of the EAP contract, there is going to be some, and we do currently some training related to, or management training related in other areas. I don't believe that budget piece is changing.
Got it, okay. So we will anticipate a budget increase. We will anticipate a budget increase due to the budget, the management leadership
Yes,
training, right?
that's
Okay.
correct.
Just want to add that in there. And then my last question, as far as like translation, communication, what line item is that on? Is that under supplies, or do you use, I mean, I know that you and I have talked about translating all the material and flyers and so forth. Where does that budget come out from?
To the chairman, I don't think we have a specific line item budget for translation. We have been just doing it internally.
Professional
Do we have
services?
is that that's it? Oh, yeah, and,
Oh, okay.
and professional services, thank you.
So then you're good in that area.
I think we're good in that area.
Got it. All right. We are good. Any other questions? Any afterthoughts? No? Thank you, Director,
Thank
for
you.
your time. Assistant Director and Director, thank you for your time. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate your time,
This
too.
part of the meeting is adjourned. And now we're going to bring someone else up. So welcome, Director Mitchell. So next up, we have Office of Equal Opportunity. You know all the council members here,
Yes.
so you could just kick it off.
All right. See if I. All right. To the chairs of the council members, thank you for having me, allowing OEO to talk today and just to get to know us a little bit better. I am Tyson Mitchell, and I'm the Director of Office of Equal Opportunity. And to my right, I have my Assistant Director, Michael Curry. And so we're going to get this thing started. As you know, the Office of Equal Opportunity started over 46 years ago in 1977. It's probably a long time. Councilman Starr, I don't know if he was around that time.
There you go. Throw the jokes. We're always talking about the older people.
Yes. And our mission, as you know, is to advance equal economic benefit for all Clevelanders by ensuring compliance with contractor goals, by providing development and support activity for targeted groups, and by overall advocacy with a commitment to excellent public service. So that's really what we try to do with the Office of Equal Opportunity. Our overview, we do 5 major things. We do certifications, free certifications. We're the only organization within the city that does free certifications. We create the GOLD program. That's where we got our 15%, 7%, 8%. We also do advocacy, which gets lost a lot of times, I think, historically. So we're really bringing that back. How do we advocate for minorities and women to be on projects? We're really advocating. We also, number 4, bid and proposal evaluations. We do that often. And contract compliance. That's where we spend a lot of our time monitoring contracts. So our current staffing level right now, we are at 9 current staff positions. We have 2 positions that are open. Currently, those 2 positions are a certifications person and one of the CBA positions that council added to the budget last year. So we did hire one other person for that.
Hold on, really quick, just to be clear. Those are still open, the 2 full-time OEO and for CBO?
No,
positions?
we hired one.
We had, okay.
But just to say, we have 2 open positions overall.
Okay, so
And
one
one
open
is the
one.
CBA position.
Got it.
And we hired a wonderful gentleman from another organization who's really leading a lot of the CBA discussions. So, all right. We'll get into our 2023 highlights. Particularly, our goal was to increase the number of MBEs by 10%. We increased that goal by 34% in 2023. So as of the end of the year, we had 279 MBEs. In 2022, we had 208, so we increased by 71. This year we had 307 FBEs. Last year we had 305, so we went up 2 FBEs. And in 2023, we had 466 CSBs. Last year in 22, we had 464, so we had a small decrease in those numbers there. So our certification program is online, and we assist applicants with the process. Number 2, we reviewed and simplified OEO certification requirements. Give you an example, there was a 6-month informal requirement. You had to be in business to get certified. Other places, state organizations, they require 1 year. We re-looked at that and said, well, what about a business? Two people come together as a consulting group who come together and create a new business. We're going to tell them they can't get certified because they haven't been in business more than 6 months or a year. We thought that was onerous. We also stopped requiring full tax returns, only requiring what's necessary to understand, to show ownership and to show where the business is located.
That's great.
If you notice, coming from the culture I do, historically a black culture, we were always taught, you don't just give all your information away. And so we're breaking down those barriers. We're also allowing people to bring their returns in or even redact some of the information and give it to us, and maybe we don't keep it. We may make a copy of just what we need. We give it back to them. So there's been some cultural barriers that have been going on. So we've been able to kind of break those, and that's why we've been able to increase the MBE certifications, particularly in the black community. So that's been a big important part. Reduced our certification time from an average 3 weeks to 2 weeks. We've done that in 23. Our certification time is down to 2 weeks. That was also always kind of an issue, how long it takes to get certified. Particularly, there are problems in the system, and sometimes people don't know all the forms they need, so we've kind of reduced those forms. We've changed our certification renewal from 1 year to 2 years. You used to get a 1-year certificate, so every year you would come back and have to give us some of the same documents and just to get recertified. So we increased certification time, I mean not time, but how long you're certified to 2 years. So now your certification is valid for 2 years. That helped free my staff up to do other more robust advocacy, to do other things, to go out and do rebuild the land, those types of things, as opposed to sitting around certifying all these companies each year. So we increased it to 2 years. And that has been well received by the contracting community, by the way. Number 5, we established an expedited certification process. Historically, there have been companies who qualify for MBE, FBE, and CSB working on projects, but if they're not certified when the contract is awarded, we didn't count the numbers. Even though an MBE did the work or an FBE did the work, we did not count them. So we created an expedited certification process. If you're on a project and you're not certified, we'll get you certified quickly. So that's one of the things we did in 23. Number 6, establish cross-certification program. This has been something we're working on. You know, all these contractors, they have to go to different places to get certified. Sewer district, the county, RTA, City of Cleveland, there's a few other certifications. So there was a frustration in the contractors saying, why do we have to go to all these places? Can there be some type of reciprocity? So we've been working, Zach Reed has been leading that charge. So right now we have informal agreements with the Sewer District and RTA and Cuyahoga County to accept their certifications. So we need to expand that program a little bit more. There are some things that they do differently, so we can't just blindly accept their certification, but we do not challenge the person's status. So if you're an MBE for the Sewer District, we don't need more information to show that you're an MBE. We just might need your address to make sure you're in our contracting market. So those are the things we're doing with them. Outreach events. This year we did 3 to 5, probably 5 outreach events. Rebuild the Land, the James Walker program, we do with Turner Construction. Central Velia, we had a Rebuild the Land there. Rock Hall and Cleveland Clinic. We've done outreach events where we put our information out there and get more contractors certified who are not, and let them know about OEO and the city of Cleveland, what's going on. Let's see. Number 8, partner with 3 organizations or departments to increase capacity. We've been working with Public Works. We help them create what we call, I don't know the right title, but the landscape program for the city lots. The theory was, well, why? The easy answer is to make one big contract and hire one or two firms to cut these lots, lots with structures on them. Well, we said, why don't we give those contracts to somebody with 2 or 3 lawnmowers who live in the neighborhood, who can do those contracts, who knows the area. And we created that program in partnerships with Public Works this year, and we brought on 10 new minority contractors for the landscape program who've never contracted with the city. These were contracts under $50,000. And so.
Any Latinos? I'm just curious.
Yes, we do. Yes, yes. And, was a few hiccups with the program, but one of the things we have to, it's easy to say, hey, this is not working, so let's get rid of it. I'll just give you one of the examples. Getting paid, submitting invoices it took a little learning curve. Some of these structures we couldn't cut unless they were 8 inches. The grass had to be 8 inches or above. So they had to take pictures with the ruler and show us 8 inches, and they couldn't maintain them. Landscapers are used to cutting every 2-3 weeks. No, you couldn't do that on this program. So you had to cut it only when it's over 8 inches. So those are little things we're learning. But that was a program we implemented. We're proud of. We did some work with ECDI Development Company. I've only been here almost 2 years, and every week I hear that we didn't have any minority contractors to get rid of hazardous dirt with dump trucks. So I would always have to waive that goal. So we created a program and partnered with community development to create a hazmat program for truckers to help them get their, particularly minority and female truckers, to get their hazmat certification. So now when they come to me and say, hey, we can't make that goal, I say, wait a minute, did you call such and such? Did you call such and such? And so that's an example of filling a void that has been put forth every year with that program. We actually had one minority female trucker who received her hazmat certification through that program, and a few other people. Lastly, we partnered with Urban League and ECDI in that. Last one, redesigned the small contract rotation program. This is something that Zach Reed is leading. These are contracts under $50,000 where we can put into a rotation program where you got 3 people who will bid on those contracts. They don't have to bid against the world. And so that's where we're going to spend a lot of our time going forward in '24, because that's where we can be more intentional. Doesn't mean you can't have more than one contract. You can have 3 $50,000 contracts. So imagine somebody who's been making $30,000, $40,000. Now they have 3 $50,000 contracts going forward. So those are the things we worked on in '23. Lastly, these are the amounts of contracts we worked on for 2023. OEO worked on, monitored 212 contracts for $346 million. Now, these do not include ED and CD contracts. This is only what we call City of Cleveland projects that we are the owner of the projects. So in 2022, you see we did 163 contracts at $283 million. So the real question that comes down to is how much money went into minority and female hands. That's really what we want to focus on here. We had 26, just on these contracts here, $26 million in 2023. And for FBE, we had, for female businesses, $43 million. 22, we had $19 million in MBE spend or contracting, and $38 million for FBE contracting. Okay.
Director, do you have the contracts broken down into different businesses? Just curious.
What do you mean?
Like the contracts, like are these construction, are these food, like
Oh,
how
okay.
do they
These
break
would these
down?
be mostly construction?
We haven't broken down
Okay.
to Councilwoman. We haven't broken down in every category, and that'll be part of our budget hearing information. Our final annual report will include all of that information. We just crunched these numbers for 2023. We're a week in, so this is the highest level stuff that we have, but we are breaking it down by every department.
Got it, okay.
So, yeah, we'll open it up to questions.
Okay. Very quickly, I'm always astonished at like all the work that you do, and you only have, how many employees? 9?
9.
9. I don't know how you
We've
do it,
lost
but.
a couple, Chairwoman, we've lost a couple people also, and that's one of the issues, particularly in a small department, when you lose people, they take away a lot of the institutional knowledge, and I think it actually hurts us more than if the person leaves in a larger department.
Yeah, exactly. So, in terms of the budget for your staff, do we anticipate you requesting additional dollars for additional position? And I'm only thinking of that because CBOs, right, community benefits ordinance sits in your department.
Right.
So how has that changed the structure? How it anticipates changing the structure? And what is like this upcoming year with the budget look like
Okay.
because of the CBOs?
Madam Chairperson, the CBA has been, in my opinion, a godsend to the city. I think it has really formalized the things we've been doing in the background. You know, OEO, in my opinion, OEO has sometimes been seen as an impediment because we are usually brought in projects probably 70%, 60% done or 50%, and we're saying, hey, where's your participation? Now we're being brought in early on. I think you all might have seen earlier on the Renaissance Project in Councilman Starr's ward. We've been meeting with them so long, so early that that's going to be an example of a great CBA because you have a great owner, you have I'll say a reasonable owner, and you have a council person who's pushing for equity. So that has been a godsend to see that. But one thing I will say is we didn't anticipate the amount of CBAs that are going to be coming through, particularly with the tax abatement going forward in 2024. And also, even though we have developed a CBA template, every CBA pretty much by itself, each CBA has to be negotiated. It's not as simple as the Renaissance Project one. We hand them a template and think they're going to just fill it out and put their best foot forward. No, they're often trading for things. Hey, if we bring a minority partner on, maybe we don't have to do that 15, 7, and 8. No, you're supposed to be putting your best foot forward for this city money. And so I think that's one of the things that we didn't anticipate, that every CBA is pretty much being negotiated in its own vacuum. And so that takes time, you know, and so I think that's an issue. But I'll tell you, from a staffing standpoint, I will be asking for more staff, particularly the 2 vacancies that we already have on the books. One is a certification person and one is a CBA person. We are going to ask for another CBA person due to the enormous amount of CBAs. And also in 2024, one of the things we're going to also ask for 2 more business development people. So that'll be a total of 5. And I'll explain the last 2 people, the last 2 positions. We have to prepare these businesses for the open market. And I don't, I'll just say in the public forum, I don't want to talk too much about the affirmative action ruling and where we're going with that. I don't want to say too much about that. But because of those things, we have to prepare these businesses for the open market. And so we're going to move a little more. We've talked to the mayor about this, and he's on board, to building businesses. You know, Ms. Jones sitting at home says, I want to start a business, and she doesn't know what to do. Well, call the Office of OEO. We're going to help walk you through that process, not do everything. You know, I think historically we blindly send people. I just use Urban League as an example because it always comes up. We just blindly say, hey, go to Urban League, and we lose track of them. And so we want to create a program that takes them through a business cycle. Do you have your business plan? Are you going to do S Corp, LLC? Where are you? What your books look like? I'm a former tax attorney. So I've seen people come with a shoebox of receipts, and I already know what you don't have for most people, particularly in my community. So we don't have to be ashamed of that. So let's get you some back office support so your financials are together. We're going to look at waiving bonds for projects under $250,000 here. So those 2 business development people will keep track of people, send them out to good resources, bring them back, and help them with what we call the now what. The problem is people get certified through our office. Hey, I'm an MBE. And they think contracts are going to rain down on them. And that generally doesn't happen. It happens a little more when we push the developers and say, hey, did you call such and such? We give them a list. But we got to help them with the now what. A lot of people don't know how to navigate City Hall through the purchasing department. Bidding is intimidating. And for people who have a lot of education, it's intimidating. But for those who have the flashlight and who's done it already, it's easy for them. So we want to create a program where we walk you through City Hall. We show you how to bid. So that's going to be the development. We gotta make our way and increase that pipeline. So that's what we'll be asking for those other 2 positions.
I love it, Director. And you know what? I mean, I've sat with you several times and just kind of shared the challenges that happens in the Latino community. And I will say that you have brought some very transformational solutions to kind of assist small business Latino owners. Going back to the Urban League comment, how do we not duplicate services though, right? Like
Right.
you do your part, but then HBC does their part. Because one of the things that I realize in that realm is like people are going to several organizations to get help. So, I mean, if you were the right place, should we had put so much money in urban development or HBC with ARPA, right? Like, I guess is what's going to make you different when I'm referring someone than Urban League or HBC?
Madam Chairperson, I think one of the things, first thing we have to do is take inventory of what we have in the ecosystem. I mean, and I'll just say, there's an inventory, but then there's people who are doing the best work. So we got to look and see what those resources are, who we can refer people to. We want to be the starting point. We can be the starting point for someone who doesn't know about a business. You know, I might make the best Jamaican food, but I want to start a business, but I don't know what to do next. So we want to be that first point of contact, and then send you out to different places. But more important, and keep track of you. So if you want a business. We don't want to be doing business plans and all that, but we want to be able to have, that's another way we can increase the number of people we give contracts to. So imagine if we have somebody in our database who does business plans. So we can send you to that company. So now we're increasing business there. So that's what we're going to look to do, is see where we can play our part, not try to do everything. If it's not being done well outside, we want to create it or we want to be it. So that's how we're going to measure that.
Got it. And then just my last question, and I'm sure my colleagues are going to ask very good questions, is, oh my gosh, I probably lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens.
I know, right? The senior moment.
You know what, yes, senior moment. I've been getting a lot of those lately. Yeah, yeah, that's what
Because
it
I had to
was.
go get some coffee, and I had to sit in there just to get out. He needs to cut a tape to make people go to sleep, and now that's a business plan that she
Yeah.
put together.
It's terrible. Anyhow,
I
I'll
fell
come
asleep
back.
and had to shake it off, and then before I got back in here.
I'll come back to
Okay.
my questions. So
Yes,
I'm going to
ma'am.
open it up to my colleagues. Councilman Jones?
I just want to thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I was just sitting here just listening to what you were saying about the businesses in your neighborhood, and I've seen you come here and talk about minority businesses and how we can create opportunities for them and the whole 9 yards. And I, even though I'm kind of joking, I love our director over at Human Resources. I think he's doing some challenging things over there, but God, I fell asleep on that. And I had to go get some coffee to shake out of it. But with that being said, that I've gotten my cup of coffee now and I'm back energized. What I will say is that what you're talking about is ideal, is what we should have been done. This department, unfortunately, has not been functioning right. And it hasn't been functioning right for quite some time. They put people in there for whatever reasons, and then you don't hear from them anymore. So I'm glad that this council has put together the plan. Thank God to Jessica Colombi and all those who helped to put this piece in place that are part of the staff, and then council, and Jasmine Santana and the president of Cleveland City Council pushing that there's new standards and systems put in place. Our city is fundamentally woefully behind in terms of minority businesses having an opportunity. A lot of them have left this city and they went to other cities because there's no assistance and help. And so as it relates to the proposition of these 2 additional people that would be helping businesses to develop, it would bring it a total to how many, Madam Chairwoman, to the director?
Through the chair to the councilperson, we will be asking for 5 people total.
So you're actually setting a system in place where you're going to actually have a system. So it's not just going to be just that one person doing that.
Right.
Whose ideal, if I may ask, is it that did that? Who came up with that?
Well, for the 2 people, Mayor Bibb spoke to us about creating a place. His exact words were to create a place where a person can call for the first point of contact So that was his direction about a year and a half ago.
Well, I got to give him major kudos on that. That's the first bright thing that I've ever seen out of OEO. For the most part, it's just where people just go to have a job. And I haven't seen anything significant other than the days of Fannie Lewis when she was beating the crap out of OEO to do things that they should be doing. And I miss her so much here at this table. So, but short of that, I'm looking at your overview and your presentation. So with those 5, with the issues of certifications, do we know how many certifications that come in and get certified through the city of Cleveland each year in your department? Do you have an accounting and total of that?
Through the council, to the chairperson, through the councilman, do you mean how many apply or how many get certified?
How many actually get certified? Because see, then that way we can look to see if it's another way of gauging the department, right? So for an example, 10 years ago, how many people actually came to the city of Cleveland to get a certification? And then comparison and contrast to now.
So we have a total for 2023 of 649 certified businesses. In 2022, we had 596.
And you did the certification. How does that certification go about? Explain to me, if I'm business ABC and I want to come in and get a certification, I'm a minority business, how does that work?
Through the chairperson to the councilman, we have it online. It's an online process. It gives you all the forms, tells you exactly what you need. You particularly need business name. You know, one of the things we added was kind of a change in language because it would say incorporation papers. Well, guess what? Everyone's not incorporated. We still have sole proprietors out here. So that would be a barrier. So we said, you know, if incorporation papers, or sole proprietor, tax ID or social security number. Previously, we asked for things like not receipts, but invoices. Well, but that presumes you're an ongoing business, right? So we removed a lot of those things. So, but if you have those things, resume of the principals of the owners, that's one of the things we look for. What's your mailing address? Where is the business located? What exactly do you do so we can get you in the right NACE code? It used to be called SIC code back in the day. We can get you in the right code so when developers look for your type of service, they search sometimes by this NACE code as opposed to function. So, you know, those are the things you will need. You would do it online through our system called B2G. Our certification experts will receive your application and follow up with you and say you need this or you need that. And then next thing you know, you get a certification in the mail.
Okay, so that's it.
Yes.
And then you're considered a MBE, FBE, or CSB?
Or, yeah, sometimes all 3.
Really?
Yes.
That's it?
Well, yes. Because let's keep in mind, we're certifying ownership.
Right.
Not how great you are. You know, some people would wish we would do that, but that's not really realistic. You know, we're going to call all your references and see how you did on that gutter job, and we're certifying ownership to let people know that this is an MBE company, this is an FBE, or CSB.
Okay. So they don't have to go through classes or anything like that. It's just basically getting the information. And there's no audits or anything like that. There's no checking on the company to see if it really is a legitimate operation or anything like that.
Through the chairperson to the councilman, we do check references, certain things. We'll check business address. We'll go to sites previously, and we haven't done any in my tenure, as far as I know, yet. But we will go check out, see where you are, because sometimes we get companies that use the same address, you know, that says now I have an FBE here, but we have the same address. So we'll go out and look, and do you have your own equipment? Do you have your own employees? So we will look into those things, and I'll just share. The other day, we got some information about some companies that might not be doing the right thing. So we'll come out and do a pop-up visit. So that's what we're preparing
And
for.
so you can do that for companies that are certified by you. But if they're, so that's just, if you do that, if you get comments, you would, only those companies that have been certified with the city, that means you take ownership, or it doesn't matter?
Through the chairperson to the councilman, what do you mean ownership?
Ownership, that means that minority ownership, business minority ownership, but they don't necessarily have to be certified by you.
Most of the companies, all of the companies that are in our database are certified by us.
So if I'm a minority business already, I've already been certified somewhere else as being a minority business, right? So then I come and do business with you, that gives you the leverage then to come and check on me. Is that what I'm hearing, just to be clear?
Through the chairperson, to the councilman, we will, I talked a little bit about that earlier, about the reciprocity. We create an expedited certification process. We won't challenge your MBE status, but we'll just try to look at your address and make sure that you're in our contracting market. And then technically you'll get a City of Cleveland certification along with your other certification.
Oh, so is it like an automatic scenario? Would it automatically happen?
No, it will not automatically happen because we have to make sure you're in one of the biggest issues is contracting market. RTA and sewer district, they sometimes have a broader market in which they certify people. I think ours, Summit? We don't do Summit? We Summit, one of the, what's the county we don't do? Medina.
I'm sorry, who's the distinguished gentleman next to you?
This is my distinguished Assistant Director, Michael Curry.
Michael Kerr?
Curry.
Michael Curry. You've been here, I've heard the name. You've been here sometime, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
How long, Madam Chairwoman, to Mr. Curry, have you worked in the city?
Through the chair, I just eclipsed 17 years. So
That's a
January
bit.
1st was my 17th year.
Yes, I'll yield.
born 17.
Now, you know you should quit it, Mr. Starr. Okay, so go ahead. So, yeah, I've heard a lot about you, Mr. Curry. But good stuff. So it's good to meet you. I guess, so let me ask you this, Director, to Mr. Curry. What do you do for the department?
Through the chair to the councilman, I would say a little bit of everything. I'm primarily focused on contract compliance. So once we get a contract started, I'm responsible and my team is responsible for ensuring that those contractors are used on the contract. We'll also monitor the use of Cleveland residents on development contracts. We'll monitor, prevailing wages appropriate. So heavily invested in the compliance side, making sure that our contractors and our partners are doing what they promised to do at the time of bid.
Okay, so it's more or less on the compliance or whatever the contract is. With this new program that we have in terms of accountability to council just passed, do you work with that too?
To the councilperson, regarding the community benefits agreement
Correct.
elements, or yes. So I've been involved in working on the template and doing everything I can to prepare our contractors and our developers for the requirements of the community benefits ordinance and the individual agreements that apply to each individual contract.
Did you help with putting it together? Madam Chairwoman, to Mr. Curry?
Yeah, to the councilman, the actual ordinance and the initial elements, no. I'm sort of coming in and providing assistance, to the director as to how we're going to manage compliance on these elements as we move forward.
I see. And so you're going to be working with that piece along with your compliance with the contracts?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you also handle all of the stuff that happens, Madam Chairwoman, to Mr. Curry at the airport?
No, sir. The Office of Equal Opportunity works closely with Department of Port Control to manage their components, but Department of Port Control has its own compliance office to manage its federal obligations. So anything that has federal money directly tied to it is managed more directly through that office. Any funding that comes through the general fund or its own enterprise fund, anything that's city controlled, would come through our office.
And how many contracts, Madam Chairwoman, to Mr. Curry that you work on? Is it all of them in compliance? Your department does all of it?
To the councilman, yes. Anything that is approved by the city of Cleveland, whether it is a directly funded contract or a development contract that has OEO goals, so that's every contract over $50,000, is going to come through our office for compliance purposes.
Okay, so now I have a problem. So here's my problem. So I know you're the main guy now. So we have contractor A is not in compliance. How do you handle that? How do you handle a contractor that is not in compliance, that's doing work for the city of Cleveland, and continues to get more contracts with the city of Cleveland, but yet at the same time, they're not following any of the rules? None?
To the councilperson, we work closely with our contracting partners, and we work very carefully to make sure that our contractors are being treated fairly. If a contractor is not in compliance, if they're not operating in fair order with other contractors, then we will work closely with those contractors to address that issue.
And Madam
go ahead.
Chairwoman, I got a real beef sitting here at this table on compliance, and I'll talk to you a little bit behind the scenes about it, and then maybe we could talk to the director about it. But I don't see how these people continue to give us the work. The quality of work is absolutely poor. In fact, it's horrible. And it hasn't been the first time I've had issues with them. Hasn't been the second time, the third time. And they seem to come in here and not follow any of the rules. And I'm glad that at least this side of the table put that piece together with others so that we change it up a little bit. But I don't know how this is going to impact that side of the hall, but I wanted to talk to you
Yeah.
about it. And then we can sit down with the director and talk about that and see if that is actually in your shop.
Yeah, and we could have a separate conversation, because today we really want to hone in on the budget. Like, what are your needs, to operate? But I will tell you, there's been substantial difference since, under your leadership and with
Yeah, you
assistant
great
director.
leadership.
So, yeah.
I agree. I agree with you, Madam Chairwoman. I like our director. I'm glad he's here. I'm glad he's doing the work, and the people that I'm talking about may not come into your shop. Mr. Curry may not even have them. But if they do work for the city of Cleveland, they would probably, chances are, come through your shop. So I'd like to sit down with that. But the director, the chairwoman is correct as it relates to what we want to look at is the budget and everything like that. But I support any increases that you're talking about, because I think the programs that you have, Madam Chairwoman, will help to increase minority participation. And with that, Madam Chairwoman, I yield the floor. Appreciate
Thank you,
giving me
Councilman
the
Jones.
opportunity.
Thank you, thank you. Next up, I have Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually really don't think I have further questions. My main questions were related to the CBO ordinance, and I think that you asked the really important questions related to that. I was really pleased with the director's response in terms of capacity and also just that moving in the right direction in terms of how OEO is can best function and can best serve the city. So I was really pleased with that response.
And you reminded me of my question.
Oh, good. Yay.
So,
Please proceed.
oftentimes I think to myself, like, we could pass legislation, but if there's no enforcement or follow-up with legislation, right, it just doesn't impact. And so when it comes down to, like, you adding more staff members, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but will there be someone focusing on ensuring that numbers are met and, the CBO is being followed up on?
Madam Chairperson, one of the things we are doing, so in our compliance system, we normally check and see if they're doing, if they hire a minority contractor for $200,000, we put that into our system and we monitor that. We monitor the Fannie Lewis work hours. And so with the CBA, we're also going to monitor when, like they said earlier, they're going to build a pocket park. We're also going to add that to our compliance system. Have they done, what happens is, a lot of times you have transition in other departments and those things fall off. So now that it's in OEO, we're going to monitor those things. Even if it's 5 years from now, how did you do what you're supposed to do? Did you build that pocket park? Are you paying for daycare in which you said that you're going to do? Those types of things, it is going to be in our system, and so it's going to be someone's job. It's just an added, function
Got it.
that we will be working on. And then to go back with Councilwoman Spencer, one of the things we're going to look at is, on the legislation that requires mentor-protege program, right? Well, one of the things we wanted to do was see how we can maybe farm that out to a organization that really that works on mentor-protege, but there are none here. So when you look at there's federal mentor-protege programs, and they have like 2-3 people. Their only job is to monitor and make sure a mentor protege happens between a small developer, small contractor, and a big developer. That's what they do. So we got to add some type of function because that is in the legislation, mentor protege program. So what we've had to do is allow developers to kind of create their own right now until we develop an internal program. And I don't think we really, when we drafted that legislation as a team, we didn't really contemplate the mentor proteges. We just said, hey, do a mentor protege. And it's like, okay, well, what does that consist of? How long should it be? What are the goals of the mentor protege program? So those are things we're going to be looking for these new staff persons to work on. That mentor protege program is how we can really build capacity of minority and female firms.
Got it. Thank you. Still on you.
Perfect. And then I actually, on that note, I wanted to speak about, these are the two, through our chairwoman to director, those, you were just referring to the new business development positions that are being, I was wondering about identifying the talent to fill those positions, because those would be fairly knowledgeable individuals, experienced individuals. Where do you anticipate finding the talent to fill those positions?
Well, through the chairperson, through the councilwoman, I generally like to look in internal networks. I come from a DEI background. My previous position at Ohio Guidestone as the vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion and we always ask companies and HR departments, what are you doing to find people? And generally, it's post and pray. And I don't really subscribe to post and pray. I like to say, let's use our internal networks. If you want more minority employees, you're not going to find us at the union club, right? So where are you going to do that? What are you doing to be intentional? So a long answer to say, I'm going to be very intentional. I'm going to use our personal networks of people we know. I think as a city, we don't have to be scared to go and poach people. You know, we don't have to sometimes we can develop our bench strength, but sometimes we got to go out and find the people we need. So I'm going to, between going out and find who we need and using our internal networks, that's my plan.
Great. And then I just wanted to conclude with a comment, Madam Chair, which is this slide being one example, the numbers are really moving in the direction we're happy to see them going in. And I thought a number of the stories that the director shared today should be shared more widely, some of the success stories. So I appreciated those being shared with the committee today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Slight.
Thank you. Building off this slide and going back to your point about kind of advocacy in this larger mentor protege concept, there's 3 certifications: minority, female, small business. Is there overlap on this slide between, say, the 26 million and the 43 million? Are there cases where we're counting the $1 twice because an organization could have both certifications?
To the councilman, yes, there's going to be some overlap in these fields. It's the reality of when we're trying to break these down. When we present our final annual report, it does break them down by each individual category, so you don't get the double counting, so you can see a full understanding of certified spend. But we also want to not reduce that by any more than necessary. So if you ask us, again, the question of how much MBE spend was there last year, this is an accurate number. It's just that some of those businesses will also be counted in the FBE category as well.
Sure, and it's not a loaded question. Suggestion or maybe a data request, almost to view it as like a triple Venn diagram. I think it'd be useful to see, you know, where is there overlap between MBE and FBE? Where is there overlap between FBE and CSB? Who has all 3? And just perhaps there's something to glean out of that of like, hey, it looks like we have a lot of, there's not a lot of overlap between it. Like maybe there's not a lot of overlap between MBE and FBE, and we recognize that there's a disparity that's larger among Black female-owned businesses, and that's something that we need to focus our attention on. And coming back to that advocacy and coming back to that kind of mentorship. So perhaps that'd be a way to be able to unpack that a little bit. So that's another way to present the data, just as a suggestion. And that was the only thing I had.
Oh, that was
That's
good.
Thanks.
But look at all the questions you had.
I know. Just practice.
If you see his notes, they're so neat.
My mom was my 4th grade teacher. I'm just practicing my
Okay,
cursive.
that's
So.
what it is. Next
Well,
up.
and then
Okay.
just lastly, I want to say that one of the things we are going to do, start working with urban analytics a little more to see how we can pull data easily with Dr. Crow, so that we're really excited about that. We do struggle a little bit, like there's a company out, popular company that's an MBE, FBE, and CSB. Well, where do you count those dollars? You know, do you count them one place? We can. But we shouldn't count the same dollar in each category. So that's always an issue. Even with determining our number of certified firms. When I said we have, 596 or 6, wherever we are, well, there's overlap. So how do you count those? Do you count them 3 times? Do you count them 1 time? So that's always kind of a struggle for us.
Thank you. And I learned something. Thank you, Councilman. Next up, I have Councilwoman Gray.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one question. Pertaining to the information you have up here, dealing with the contracts of the business, of the black firms, I work with your manager, Zach Reed, quite a bit for local services for the residents pertaining to their needs. These contractors, is this still part of what they do for local services for homeowners in the community as well? Chair to the director.
Through the chair to the council person, do you mean do we have, let's say, like, when someone works on a roof in the community, are those numbers in here?
Yes,
I
are
don't know
those
if you
numbers in there?
You can answer that, man.
To the councilwoman, no, these are only contracts that are basically coming out of general fund. So
Okay.
when we do, again, our annual report, it will include community development and economic development contracts. So some of our programs that are directly out of those offices for homeowners, for rehabilitation, for roofs and those types of things.
Yes.
Those numbers will be found in that contracting.
Okay.
Those numbers are not yet available for us. We're crunching those now. But when we get to our annual report, you'll see how we break down the use of our MBFB and CSB firms in those community development, community-focused projects.
Okay, all right, good answer, because I was wondering why these are bigger construction contractors that work on the bigger jobs more so than the local, small community assistance that the homeowners need for maybe 1 or 2 jobs that is needed on their homes.
And then through the chair to the council
director.
person, one of the things, a meeting that is going on right now is with Department of Aging, where we're going to work on another lawnmower program where now they can cut the grass consistently. So we have Director McNamara talked to us about, she has a lot of seniors who are on the waiting list to get their grass cut. So we're working on creating a program where we can find minority landscapers who can cut the seniors' homes on a consistent basis. So this program, I'm more excited about this program because it's easier to monitor for the landscapers. They're used to cutting, like I said earlier, cutting on a rotation. And so they don't have to do the 8 inches and all that. They can just cut and maintain it. My point is, these are the contracts under $50,000 where we can be very intentional. And that's where we got to spend a lot of our time because you don't have to bid against the whole world.
Exactly.
You don't have to bid against the large contractors who can bring their prices down way below because they want the contract.
Okay, thank you. That's a great answer, Chair, to the director, because I have I have called Zach Reed on many, many occasions because of the CHOR program with the Department of Aging, overloads and it get back up because they have a percentage of senior citizens per ward that they can cut through the county court partnership that they have with the counties at the county court division. And then a lot of senior citizens have been left out. So Zach Reed and I had that conversation, and he had told me that you guys had that bidding in for landscapers.
Right, correct.
And if I had known any landscapers in Ward 4, please have them call your office because it goes through the purchasing
Yes,
department.
correct.
And a lot of them even got got shut out after the, after the last day that is needed to be, had called in to get in that program. So are you going to be opening up that for more landscapers to come in this year so they can get on the list, pertaining to this project you just got through speaking on?
Well,
Chair to the director.
Through the chair to the councilperson, we are only a partner in that program. It's a public works program that they brought us in and we partnered with, so we don't decide whether it gets opened again. We just,
Okay.
once they decide we're going to do it, we help make it equitable. So we don't really have the power to say we're going to do that in their department.
Okay.
So I can't really say that there will, when they open it up or if they're going to open it up, where we're going to be on that.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. Thank you, that's it, Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Madam Chair, to the Commissioner Director. You know, fellas, you guys work well together. Most of them, you've been very thorough, and I appreciate that. And most of my colleagues have been thorough in asking some of the questions I was thinking of. I would have you come back to us, just what you're saying, intentionally look for somebody to monitoring, look for extra people in the CBA, because this TIF, you will have a lot more going on. I like the redesigned small contract rotation program. I like the way that you, sir, think about minority and residents. I like the way you think about the culture. I'm a councilman in Ward 11, but I grew up in Collinwood on the east side. And I appreciate the way you talk and think about the people who actually sweat for a living in this city. I'm a 46-year member of Labor's Local 310, so I just really want to thank you for all that. Most of my questions have all been brought up, but I look forward to maybe tipping by your office and sitting down and have a cup of tea. All right? Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
We'd love to talk to you. They're Collinwood. I'm a Shaw High resident. So I would love to. We'll put our differences aside.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. And then last but not least, Councilwoman, Councilman, Council Baby, no. Star. That's what he's always talking about, the 40-year-old.
Right.
See, the viewers at home know what I deal with. You see what I deal with. No, first I would just say thank you, Chairwoman, for hosting this committee today. Great opportunity to talk about, hear from OEO about some of their goals, some of the things that they're changing, ways that they are working to improve the DEI on projects, which is very important. I also want to say thank you to Director Mitchell for working with me on Project Renaissance. You allocating staff, making sure Zach Reed is heavily involved, informing me how Project Renaissance is going to work. From that community benefits package, I know we've been going back and forth, email to email, calls to calls, walk upstairs, come downstairs, grabbing chicken wings, whatever it takes for us to be able to get on the same page, but also for you holding everyone accountable. That's something that we oftentimes do not give credit to. And when we have a department like OEO who's willing to hold people accountable is really great, and it's very important. And then also one of the things we also got to attribute to is, one of the things that I know you mentioned about earlier, but I think about having the staff to be able to monitor these projects, because sometimes people come to the table, get what they need, and then it doesn't actually go as they said they were going to do, and then we have no way of knowing from council standpoint. So one of the things I urge my colleagues to do is work with the OEO. If you got a development going on in your ward and you want to get an update, reach out to Director Tyson Mitchell. He will definitely get you the numbers to see where they are at, because one of the things we got to make sure those small businesses or those people in our neighborhoods get the opportunity to get a fair chance at bidding, but also get a chance and opportunity to grow as we continue to develop our neighborhoods. We got to put our peoples first. That's going to drive the population of people wanting to live here, because they starting to make that money, good job opportunities, and just working with OEO has been great, and I continue to do the work, and I thank y'all for everything that y'all do, as well as Assistant Director Michael Curry, too. And I yield, Chair.
Good, that's a great ending. Thank you. Do you want any response? No?
No, just like to thank you all for confidence, and this is great. I really feel like I'm a public servant and really trying to do the work for the people. I really, sounds cliche, but that's
Yeah.
who I am.
Yeah, you know, and action speaks louder than words, and, you know, your actions have totally proven that, so thank
And
you.
last thing, you will be seeing, we are changing our good faith requirements. Good faith requirements are when we have to waive goals, contractors send out one email to 20 people and say we didn't get a response, and my office has to waive those goals. We're adding like a 10-point checklist that you have to go through. Did you intentionally unbundle these contracts? What did you advertise? It's a whole different thing in order for us to give you good faith going forward. So you'll see that in the next month or two
I love it.
going out.
Yeah, and you know what, Director, send us any type of like marketing, communication that we could put in our newsletter. Let us know, like you talked about a new landscaping program. I mean, these are things that we could put and market in our community, so.
Oh, definitely, and through
thank you
Chair,
for that.
we are going to start advertising, have a more of a social media presence going forward, showing companies that came in to get certified, showing them with their certificate, encouraging others to do it, and showing good companies that are doing good work out here. I'll just share this last story. I ran into a high school buddy of mine, and he's working on the Sherwin-Williams project, and he didn't know what I did for a living, and I told him, he said, oh, wow, that's why we are seeing all this diversity. He said he's been on projects for 17 years. He's never seen that much diversity on a project in his whole 17-year career. So that small little thing lit my fire and said, this is why we got to continue.
Oh, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. So do we anticipate like some dancing on TikTok or something from you? No?
Oh, no. I didn't get those skills. I was in the brain line when God gave. I didn't really get. People laugh at my rhythm a little
Yeah.
bit. So.
Thank you everyone for being here and your great questions. Thank you.
Thank you.